Hello, welcome back. My name is Charlie, and I read a book. I read another one. I read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, a classic of modern fantasy. I feel like this is one of the big ones. Robin Hobb is one of the big names, and the Realm of the Elderlings which is her kind of like the name of her overarching series, like the collection of a bunch of series that she's published under the name of Robin Hobb, is iconic. This book here, The Assassin's Apprentice, is kind of the first book in that large series, and it's also the first book of the Farseer trilogy, which is now what I'm going to be working my way through over the next several months. I picked up books 2 and 3 immediately after finishing book 1, which tells you, a little bit of a spoiler about how I felt about this book. I loved it. It was really good. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you have not read this book or this series or whatever, you're safe here. I'm not going to talk about anything that I would consider a spoiler, and I myself, just so you know, I'm pretty spoiler sensitive. I consider myself very spoiler sensitive with a lot of things, so I'm not going to say anything that you wouldn't find on the back cover of this book. I do think this is a harder book to talk about, and I think that's because of the way that it's written and the fact that it is this heavily character focused story, and we are so close to that main character, and for some reason I feel like that does make it difficult to kind of try to navigate the conversation of what this book is about without feeling like you are touching on spoilers, because we're just walking through their life. So I don't know, for some reason it feels tough, but I'm gonna do my best. At its core, this is just a book about our main character, Fitz, and they are the illegitimate son of a prince, which is a big deal, right? And so because of the big scandal that is his life, he's kind of thrown away by society. He's tucked away into the corner, and people don't want to see him, and he's seen as like a threat to the throne, and he's no good, and nobody wants to hear about him, even though he is just a little baby, right? I mean, at the beginning of this book, he's, I think, 6 years old. I know at least at the end of chapter 2, he says specifically that he is 6 years old. And so he's a baby. He's just a little boy, and he's discarded. And that alone is really the heart of this story. The back of the book will tell you that there are raiders ravaging the coast, and it'll tell you about Fitz and how he's going on his first mission as an assassin, right? Which is, again, not a spoiler because the name of the book is Assassin's Apprentice. So, it paints the picture of the story in a way that I think is not really fair to the book, because it almost makes it feel, the name of the book and the back of the book make it feel like it's going to be, or make it sound almost like it's going to be this like tale of this boy learning how to be an assassin, and like a lot of like killing and like action and whatever. But if you've heard anybody talk about this book, you'll know that it's not that. It's not a fast-paced, over-the-top book about these assassinations and all this stuff. And I mean, that stuff is in there, right? He is an assassin's apprentice. That is true. The king, after he's kind of thrown away, puts him to training, and he says, okay, this guy's going to train you up, and you're going to be an assassin. And that's like, he's just like, okay, whatever, I'll do that, I guess, because I'm 6 years old. And so all that stuff is true, but what we're really doing is we're focusing on this character, this boy, and his life, and his dealing with the fact that he has been rejected, and by his parents, but then also by everybody else. And we're watching him as he kind of grows into not acceptance, really, but he just kind of grows to deal with it, sort of. It's really just his journey, his struggles with his identity and with his loneliness, and kind of trying to find himself, but by trying to find others. Like, he's forging these connections, or he's trying to forge these connections with other people throughout this story. And there are, people that he will try to latch onto almost as like mentor figures. Like, I almost said father figures, but it's family figures. Like, any figure that will be on his side, that will fight for him, that will protect him, and that will, teach him and things like that. So we're just dealing with that. We're dealing with Fitz and his internal battles almost. And I don't know if I said this already, but this is first person. And not only is it first person, but it utilizes a framing narrative, meaning that we are being told this story by an older Fitz. So he is telling us this story. And this is like the second time that I've read a book that utilizes this narrative structure, this framing narrative. And both of them have been books that I've reviewed here, but that's unimportant. But I think that gives it such an interesting twist on the story, because in the back of your mind, the whole time you're reading it, you don't know what you should really believe. Not that I ever thought that Fitz was lying to me, but you just don't know. I mean, I don't know how old he is when he's telling me this story. And maybe they said it, but I don't think that we know that. But I do know, or at least he's telling me about his life. And so based on the things that I'm watching him deal with, or I'm reading him go through, I don't know that he is fully emotionally intelligent enough to understand or to like fully read the people that he's telling me about. And if he's able to tell me about these people in an accurate way, or if it's kind of biased by his life situation, his life, his impressions of these people based on what they meant to him at that time. And I guess also what they mean to him at the time that he's telling me the story. It's very complex in that vein. I think I've heard people refer to him as an unreliable narrator, and I don't know if that's true, and I don't know if you'll ever really know if that's true. I mean, this is the first book in a trilogy, and I believe that this character Fitz will come back in other series, like throughout the Realm of the Elderlings, which is again that overarching series that Robin Hobb wrote. It's made up of many series kind of within it, and I think Fitz comes up in more than just this initial Farseer trilogy. So I don't know if we ever find out if he is this like unreliable narrator, but you have to kind of imagine that he is, because he's telling his own story and he struggled. There has to be some sort of like repression or kind of, his brain kind of safeguarding himself almost. But I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of speculation, because I don't know if that's going to be the case. So I said that this isn't necessarily like a big action story, right? And that there are some intense scenes, but it's not like quick, snappy, secret murders and like, left and right, people are dying and things like that. It's definitely not that. So what is it? It's kind of more political. Ooh, can I use the word political machinations? I feel like a lot of YouTubers use the words political machinations. There are political machinations in this book. I don't actually know what that means, but it's political. The topics that we're discussing in the book are heavily political. It's kind of talking about the Six Duchies and how they're facing these external kind of threats, but we're also trying to think of the succession, right? So like I said, he's considered, or it says right on the back of the book, that Fitz is considered a threat to the throne, right? So that's kind of what the book is not. The book is not high action, fast paced thriller of a book, right? It's slow paced. You should know that going in. This has a very slow pace. You should also know that a slow pace and a bad pace are two very different things. Yes, I would say this book is very slow paced, but I would also say that this book is terrifically paced. And that's because it is so heavily character focused. Or at least you are led to believe that everything about Fitz and how he's experiencing it in the moment. And you're also being introduced to these other characters and learning a lot about these other characters. And these other characters are terrific. It's got a tremendous cast. I liked all of the cast, all of the supporting characters in the book. Not that I liked them, because some of them are horrible, but they were really well developed and they were really well explored through Fitz's eyes. Specifically, Burrich is a character that's really, really well explored, and the relationship between the two, it's good. It's intense, or not intense, but it's just the feelings that you feel when these two are interacting or when they're not interacting, or it's really good, because Burrich is this like kind of gruff, almost father figure, almost caretaker, but he's kind of put in a position that he doesn't necessarily want to be put in, and he's kind of protecting Fitz, but he's tough and he's brutal, and so the way that he shows his affection, it's not necessarily, or it doesn't always come across as affection, or he'll do something and you're like, wow, that is insane, but then you find out why he did it, or his motivations, or what he really did compared to what, you know, maybe Fitz thought he did, or things like that. And anyway, really great character, and it's really I don't know the words. It's intense. their relationship. It's tense too. You also don't even really know who all the bad guys are in the book, right? So there's a lot of characters, and kind of a lot of them are seemingly bad people, but then you're like, oh, maybe they're not bad people. Maybe Fitz just doesn't like them, but maybe they are bad people. Maybe what is a bad person? You don't really know how to judge these people, because you're seeing them do what they think is right, but maybe handling it in a bad way. And, you know, there are some characters that are more obviously evil than others, but some, I think a lot, kind of fall in this kind of gray area. But overall, the characters really were absolutely terrific. Obviously Fitz is, which is good, because this is, you know, it's his story. So if you didn't like him, or you didn't care about him, the book would kind of be dead on arrival, but you do immediately feel for this kid. I think that's because you do meet him when he is just a kid, and this whole book, he's a child essentially for the entire story. So there's definitely something about that. There's something about that where he sits right in your heart, because he's just a boy. But there's also these really mystical kind of characters that you feel for just as much, which is very interesting. The Fool is a character in this book, and I want to know so much more about the Fool, but for some reason I care about the Fool, even though he's kind of hardly in here. He plays a big role, but he kind of comes in and out, and I don't know much about him, but I feel like there's more to him. I feel like there has to be a lot of depth that we'll explore with that character. I don't know. We'll see. If you go into the book knowing the pace is slow, I think you'll have a better time than if you went into it expecting a high octane story and things like that. So go into it knowing that, please. And you should also know that the world building and the magic system, while very good, to be clear, I really loved the world building that we got in this, and what we learned about the magic system in this book. I loved it, but you should know that I currently have more questions than answers in regards to both world building and magic system. We talk about the magic, or magics, right? Like the skill and the wit are the two kind of magics that we're introduced to in this book. I don't know if there will be more throughout the story. I'm not sure. I have no idea. But those are the two that we're introduced to. And I feel at least like we hardly touched either. Like you know what they are, and we're watching them get used, but I don't know their limits, and I don't know what everybody's capable of with these magics. You're told to kind of fear one and respect the other, but I don't really know why you would do one or the other, or it's just, I don't know yet. I don't know. So that is also a very slow rollout of information, and we didn't get to a satisfying place with that, but I liked it. I like that sort of thing. It's very slow burn, I think, is how you would refer to this story. It's a slow burn in all aspects of it, including the world building. We really only focus our time in one place. What is it? Buckkeep Palace, something like that. And we hear about people in other areas and whatever, things like that, but we don't explore too much, really. Things are mentioned, but we don't go too far into it. Again, you're kind of teased with information, but you're not ever given the full story, which, again, for me, I thought that was great. For a lot of people, that's great. I could see that being annoying. I could see that being a problem for somebody. I think, honestly, if I was reading this book in 1995, I think, when it came out, I don't think I would have liked it very much, because I maybe wouldn't have known that this is going to be such a huge series, like that this is going to be a trilogy in a series that has, I think, like 16 books in it, right? So knowing that, I think I have a lot of faith in Robin Hobb that she will fully explore all of this stuff that I'm saying we don't really get, all of the information on the world building, all of the information on the magic systems, and I want to know more about the characters and all this stuff. Like, I believe that we will get there. I picked up, like I said, book 2 and book 3. These are huge. The first book was, 600 pages? No, like 440 pages. And then the next one is like 700 pages. And then the one after that is like 800 pages or 900 pages, 850 something pages. So, they get big. I'm sure that we're going to get a lot more information. If I only read this 400 and something page book and then I didn't know what was coming next, I think I might have been a little worried that this was going to be a little too ambiguous of a story. But, we're here now. It's 2025 and we know that she's here for us. She's probably explained a lot more in books to come. I have faith is essentially what I'm trying to say. I have faith that all these things that we've been teased with are going to be fully explored and that we're going to end up being very satisfied with every inch of this story. If you like a character-focused story and you like a slow rollout of information and you like just beautiful writing, like fantastic writing, it's not like flowery prose or like, overly complex sentences that make you, really think about every word. I don't think I didn't have that problem with it. Like it was fine. It was easy to read. It was just really well written. It was really beautifully written. Honestly, at some points it made me think of Susanna Clarke's writing. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Susanna Clarke would cite Robin Hobb as one of her inspirations. Specifically, what's her name? Lady Patience. When we were first introduced to Lady Patience, and again, this isn't really spoilery, I felt like the writing around that character was almost mystical in a way that made me think of Susanna Clarke's writing. So if you read Piranesi, you've read Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell, that kind of writing style is what I was getting out of this. Like it gave me a similar feeling. I don't know if that'll make sense to a lot of people, but it's really, really well written. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, if you like character-focused stories and you're okay with a slow rollout of information about a really cool world and really cool magic systems and really interesting kind of political intrigue, I think you would love this story. If you need a fast pace and a lot of action and I don't know, if you need kind of all of the information about your magic systems kind of up front, then maybe this isn't for you. But the first book's not that long, 400 and something pages. You could give it a shot and see what you think. For me, I'm fully in. This is a 4-star rating from me. Easy, no questions asked. Didn't get that 5th star. I think the way the ending wrapped up, it was almost like one of those movies where it just like pans over all the characters and it's like, that guy grew up to be a DJ. Like like it just kind of did that. I feel like we had similar vibes to the end of this book, and so that. I didn't love the way that it ended. I didn't like the wrap up. I liked everything until just before that point, and then it was fine. But I didn't love the last few pages of the book. That and a few little things here and there gave me enough reason to knock it down to just an even 4 stars, which is a great rating. And I again loved it. Looking forward to reading more from Robin Hobb. Book 2 is called Royal Assassin, and I will definitely be picking this up very soon. Super excited. That's kind of it. That's I don't know why that feels kind of like an abrupt stopping point, but those are my thoughts. That's it. That's all I've got for this book. I thought it was terrific. I highly recommend that you check it out. I'm very much looking forward to reading more Robin Hobb. And that's it. Let me know if you read this book and what you thought of it, and if you think the series goes uphill from here or if it stays kind of at this level of just fantastic. I can't imagine it gets worse, so I'd be very surprised to hear anybody say that. But yeah, let me know if you tried it, you didn't like it. Let me know if you tried it and you loved it. Let me know if you haven't tried it yet, but you're looking forward to it after this review. Would love to hear it. Looking forward to talking about this more in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.